Hi there, I'm Lori from Seed+Stone, and today I'm going to attempt to make pemmican. So let's have a look here at the stuff on the stove. This is the first step is rendering the fat, and this is a little bit of beef fat that was left over that I cut off of the lean piece of beef, and you can see the fat on the stove. It's almost ready, and in here we have some great big beef bones, and the bone marrow is being extracted, the bone marrow fat, which is the best kind of fat to use for pemmican. And I've been boiling that for a little while now, so that should be ready pretty soon. And then eventually we'll get to working on the beef. So here, now that I've gotten most of the fat out of this, I'm going to pour this through some cheesecloth. I probably should remove the meat because it's going to make a mess. And you just want to filter out all those little bits so that you end up with just the pure fat. Here I am taking the liquid from the bone marrow that we have been cooking, and it was just in water. And I'm just kind of skimming off the oils and fats that are on the top and filtering it through this cheesecloth here. And then we're going to put this in the freezer, and the fat will be sitting on top, and then we're going to render that again just to make sure that it's pure. So there is the nice oils you can kind of see sitting on top there, and the water's underneath. So we're going to put that in the freezer, and it'll be easier then to separate the fat from the water. So here you can see we've cut the beef. This is sirloin, and it's extra lean. There's not a lot of fat there on the meat, and I've cut it up into equal size pieces. Some sources say to cut with the grain, and some say to cut against the grain, so I've done a couple of different cuts to see which ones work best. And we're going to set the oven to somewhere between 150 and 180, depends on your oven. You want to set it on a really low setting. And then we're going to cook these guys. Actually, we're not going to cook them. We're just going to dehydrate them. If you have a dehydrator, you can use that instead, but I don't have one, so I'm using my oven. We've now got the beef in the oven, and we're going to leave it in there for 12 hours. And you want to leave the oven door open just slightly in order to let the moisture out. In order to prevent the oven door from closing and just to keep it open a tiny bit, I wadded up a ball of tin foil and just put it in the oven door there to hold it open a tiny bit to let the moisture out. So it's been almost 12 hours, and this is what the meat looks like. It's still not quite dry. If I crack it open, I can kind of see it's not quite crumbly. So, and I need to dab up this oil, so I'm going to take a paper towel, soak up a little bit of the oil, crack all of these open, and flip them over, and put them back in the oven for probably another couple of hours at least. And I'm going to check them. So we'll try to do this. They're not bad, they're getting there. I think we're getting close. I just need a little more time. When the beef is ready, it should crack quite nicely, quite like that. It's almost a bit crumbly. And that's perfect. Some of this is ready to go. Some of it the bigger pieces are going to have to go in there for a little bit longer. And now we're at the stage where we're going to beat it into kind of like a powder or a bacon bit-like consistency. And here's the meat in the mortar and pestle. Traditionally this was done with a stone in the hand and on a flat rock, but I don't have a stone and a flat rock, so I'm going to do it this way with the mortar and pestle. Some people use a food processor or a blender. You can do that too. But I'm using this because this is what I have. And you want to do this for a while until you get almost like a powder or a bacon bit-like consistency. It does take a little while, and it does take some energy, so you probably were wishing that you had some pemmican to eat while you were working on this. So when you're finished, you should have almost this sawdust-like consistency, and that's ready there. I put it in a pot, and when this is all complete, we'll melt the marrow, and we'll add them all back together. And as you can see, here is the dog sitting beneath me as I pound this meat, just waiting for some crumbs to fall. So we're getting very close to done. Here we have our beef, all ground up, kind of looks a little bit like some kind of weird sawdust. And I've already added a little bit of the fat. This is the marrow and a little bit of beef fat, but mostly beef marrow fat, also known as tallow. And I'm just adding a little bit at a time because I don't want to add too much. But I have a feeling I'll probably end up adding most of this. And you want to add this until the meat is saturated, so you want everything to be well covered. And here we have some pemmican in the jar, and you can add dried fruit like dried cranberries to this if you want. You should make sure that they're very, very dried because you want to make sure that there's no water or moisture in here. Some people recommend not sealing the container tightly because otherwise if there is any moisture in here and it doesn't get a chance to escape, it can go moldy, and you don't want all that hard work to go down the drain. So there it is, dry pemmican. And one final note, once the marrow reaches room temperature, it'll turn white. I don't know if you can see, this is kind of a little bit whitish, so don't be alarmed if it turns white. That's actually perfectly normal. That's just the fat turning kind of a solid at room temperature.